And hello again from WJ Live. I'm Josh Manning, joined here by Michael Austin and Sarah the intern. Sarah, what's your last name? I can't even remember off the top. Oh, I knew that.
Yeah.
I knew that.
And I'm a reporter in case anyone was interested.
Yes, Michael is a reporter. Yes, but I didn't think you'd want to be introduced as Michael the reporter, though we can do that. Welcome to WJ Live. I'm Josh Manning here with Michael the reporter and Sarah the intern. Anyway, 2.5 weeks till Christmas, folks. We were talking about that just before we got on the air, and Sarah got so excited that she kept talking as we were about to go live.
Sorry.
Then we had to gently correct her. But all is well now. All is well now. If you can't tell, I am in the Christmas spirit. I've got a little Christmas plaid going on. We've also got Christmas decorations behind us. And Kayla tells me that the red, white, and blue ornaments on the tree, that you can actually get those at patriotdepot.com. So, yeah, we got that going for us today. And our first story of the day is a Christmas story. It's actually a sad Christmas story. It's a story about what happens when Christmas and the left meet. And as you might imagine, things end in bloodshed. Basically, what we've got is a video. It's a viral video that's been going around today. Shows a kid's encounter, a young kid, maybe 6 or 7, his encounter with what looks like a mall or a department store Santa. And, because of social distancing, he has to sit way away from the Santa,
Really
which
sad.
I think is probably good for everyone involved. The fewer kids we have sitting on old men's laps, probably the better. But that aside, what happens is the kid asks for a gun for Christmas. Mm-hmm. And we've got the tweet queued up, so we'll show you what happened, and then we're going to talk about this. So, Kobe, can we go to the tweet, to the video tweet?
What do you want for Christmas?
Tweet video.
Give me a second. You don't know? What? No guns. Nerf gun. No, not even a Nerf gun. No, if your dad wants to get it for you, that's fine, but I can't bring it to you. But what else would you like? There's lots of other toys. There's Legos, there's bicycles, there's cars and trucks. What do you think? What do you think? It's okay if your dad... Don't cry. It's okay. Hey, buddy.
As one of our editors said to me earlier today when we were talking about this story, well, I guess we now know why Santa wears red. He's a commie. So let me make Let me make one point here before we start taking this apart. Matt Walsh tweeted that out. He also tweeted just about the same time. He said, we don't know the context of this. It is possible this was set up as a joke or something. It's possible that it was voiced over or something like that. That said, we spent a lot of time watching this video over and over and over again this morning, trying to make sure that the words synced up with the lips and all of those things. Mm-hmm. Yep. The best we can tell, it is real. We'll see what comes out going forward. But even if this weren't, this is not the first time that things like this have happened. And I guess the first thing I'm curious about is, why do you guys think people on the left are compelled to do this sort of thing? We've all heard stories about people coming up to those not wearing masks and saying, "Would you please put a mask on?" I've not heard one story yet about someone asking another person to take a mask off.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So why is it that the left is just intent on interfering with other people's lives, even down to Christmas wishes?
Well, this just kind of speaks to the philosophical differences between conservatives and liberals. You know, most conservatives are live and let live. You know, they're for freedom. I'll live out my beliefs, and I think you have the right to live out your beliefs as long as they don't infringe on mine.
There's a lot of the leave me alone kind of ethos.
So you won't see
there.
many conservatives doing stuff like this. Yeah. But liberals, they believe they know what is moral, what's true, what's best for everyone. And so they preach it to everyone else, everywhere they go, in every social situation. And then you see stuff like this, where this guy's trying to preach, you know, anti-gun stuff to this little kid. It's because he believes he knows what's right for this kid, and he's trying to push his values on some kid he doesn't know. He doesn't know the parents, and he knows what's best. So it's just the liberal philosophy of life.
Yeah. What do you think, sir?
You know, honestly, I think it's really interesting because aren't they the ones that say, "Oh, that's your truth, but here's my truth," and here they are shoving their truths on a child. I think it's almost like they're trying to brainwash the children, you know, and this is a little boy. Little boys, in my opinion, they should be raised like men. They should start getting into that stuff at a young age. And that makes them distinct from a female. And that's not what the left wants. A lot on the left.
I wish I had known the conversation would go this way, because I would have another picture I'd have Kobe throw up. But we found a picture of my son from, he is almost 13 now, but we found a picture of him when he was about 3, and he had gotten a Happy Meal, but he had gotten the Happy Meal with the girl's toy accidentally. And it's this just fantastic picture of him looking at the camera, looking like this.
Disappointed, upset.
Yeah. Just very frustrated. There's and just sort of guys innately kind of are interested in guy things, and the same for women. I think this is true. There are a number of studies that show that. But yes, I agree that it's a fascinating point that in a world of postmodernism, these people seem very convinced that they know what's right and what's true. And that ultimately is the issue with postmodernism. It kind of falls on its own sword before all's said and done. You can't make truth claims about there not being any truth if there's no truth. It's very hard to do. Yeah. So that's a good point there. I agree with you too, Michael, that they do feel compelled to preach that their ideas are better than others. There's nothing innately wrong with that. You know, conservatives should do that too. The weird difference, though, is that conservatives don't want to force you, generally, don't want to force you to live by their values.
And when it comes to liberal, leftist political beliefs, they tend to be a little more zealotous about them. And that's because their political beliefs tend to be in line with it is their religious beliefs. They're not. They tend to not be Christians, and so this is what they believe. This is their morality that they need to push on the world. We need to all reach utopia. Yeah. So conservatives. There are a couple of different camps among those who are sort of smaller government. Some are traditional conservatives. Some are more libertarian. The more libertarian would say, no one should push any values on anyone else. Conservatives would say that, there are some common values that we have an interest in preserving as a society. And I would say that actually teaching men to be men is probably one of those values. Teaching people to be competent with the weapons of war and things used to defend one's home and family. That's probably a good thing. These are not things we want to lose. That we don't want society to discard and forget about. So the other question I had is what if the roles were reversed? What if this were an evangelical Christian Santa? I don't know how many of those you see, but what if this were an evangelical Christian Santa, and he was faced with a child wanting Barbie's first bisexual experience playset, or so? I don't think that exists. I hope it doesn't exist.
I hope,
but something like that. What would the
what would the reaction be if the Santa said, no, I can't bring you that. I can only bring you straight toys. That's the world we live in now, where there's straight and gay toys.
I feel like if I was the Santa, I would obviously not go along with what that child wanted in that specific instance. But I wouldn't be unkind to the child. That Santa, whoever he was not kind, you know? I think if the roles were reversed, and to be fair, I think we would see that conservative evangelical Santa. I think he would maybe respond in a different way, and not necessarily say, oh, I'm going to get you that, you know? Mm-hmm. He might say, you know, push it aside and be like, oh, I'll get you a Barbie or something, and not say, I'm going to get you a trans Barbie, you know? Something like that. That's I don't think that would happen.
So you would actually push back a little bit if you were the Santa. You would push back just a little bit, but you would be gentle.
I would be very gentle because it's a child, you know.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this specific Santa Claus, I don't think he took that into consideration at all. So
would you push back?
I think I'd act similar to how Sarah was describing, you know, just, I can get you a Barbie doll. But, you know, if I did, then a million leftist outlets would immediately write about how I'm this homophobic, transphobic Santa that needs to get fired immediately. And then I'd probably get fired. So
you would be a canceled Santa.
The treatment would be 100% different, even if the actions were the same.
I agree. And I think that's the thing that's probably more interesting here is that the treatment would be completely different. If I were in the Santa's place, I think all I would say is, okay, that's interesting. What else would you like? And just go along. And what's not clear is why in the world the fella didn't just do that. I mean, he said, I'm sorry, I can't bring you that. It's like, I don't know if anybody told the guy, but he's not actually Santa. He's not responsible for bringing the kid. It's like, oh, I gotta keep the kid's hopes realistic. I'm not going to be able to bring him the gun. It's like, no, the kid, no, the point is, that's an interesting thing. What else would you like?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's all you have to do. But for some reason, there is this compulsion to push orthodoxy on others. And the whole I think you maybe used the phrase live and let live earlier. Mm-hmm. That is something we see less and less on the illiberal left. So talking about the illiberal left, we had a cool video for my piece. I think you've got a cool video for your piece. Tell us about what's going on.
Yeah, so just to set this up for a second, lockdowns in California have been getting insane.
Mm-hmm.
LA mayor,
Thanksgiving canceled.
Yep.
Well, Eric Garcetti last week.
You
can't walk. He banned that.
Sorry, I'm stepping on your stuff.
No, you're good. I appreciate the help. Gavin Newsom, he had a bunch of ridiculous lockdown orders as well. And one of the worst parts about these lockdowns that we've seen from the beginning is the hypocritical, like, arbitrarily deciding which businesses are allowed to stay open and which are essential and which are non-essential.
Yep.
And so in California now, one of the types of businesses listed as essential is movie studios, movie production companies.
Those are very
essential, I guess. More essential than dining, apparently. And so Angela Marsden, the owner of Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill in Sherman Oaks, California, it's been in that community for over 40 years, that restaurant.
LA. Wow. It's basically LA.
And so we have a video for you that we're going to play right now, and it's of her explaining why she's protesting the lockdowns.
I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away.
So what that shows to me is that Gavin Newsom, Garcetti, all these Dem politicians issuing these lockdowns, they believe that elites deserve more privileges than the average working people. What do you think it says to you guys that the fact that they're allowing movie studios to do that while shutting down smaller businesses that need the money more? They need to stay open, otherwise they're going to shut down.
What do you think,
Well,
Sarah?
Honestly, and I can't speak for how he truly feels, but I think this is a clear message from Gavin Newsom and Garcetti that they don't really care about the regular working class people. I think this is really pathetic what they've done. And I think they're saying that, entertainment is more important than a struggling woman, trying to make ends meet with her business that she's had for over 40 years. I think that's really horrible.
Well, I would say that this is pretty much entirely her fault. If she would simply host a $10,000 per plate fundraiser
Right.
for Gavin Newsom, I mean, she'd be reopened like that.
He would be there. He would attend,
He would be there. It would be instant.
With the
She would
medical
get
officials
all.
he was with.
She would get all
Maybe-
of the exceptions.
Maybe if
that
she
needed.
hosted that birthday party he went to the other week.
Exactly.
Maybe then she'd be
the
allowed to
maskless
stay
birthday
open.
party, that's an option too. She clearly does not understand that California doesn't operate like a free, open market economy and instead is something more like an autocracy or a kleptocracy.
Yep.
I kid when I say that. There is, I think, a whole lot of truth behind it, though.
Yes.
The people who are impacted by shutting down the movies have a lot more money than she has. They have a lot more influence than she has. They have the ability. They have audiences that she doesn't have. And the maybe the saddest thing about it is they have money that she doesn't have.
Yeah.
Which is really sad. Which says they can afford to be put on hold for a little while. When people are selling their homes in LA for tens of millions of dollars, these are folks they've got some amount, they can live off the money for a little bit. This poor lady, I guarantee you, she's working from paycheck to paycheck, just trying to keep her business afloat. And it's not just her business. It's her waiters, her cooks, busboys, all of that,
lives.
other people's
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then those people, of course, they're paying rent, they're making car payments. This is how the economy works. And so when you shut down huge sectors of the economy, you destroy people's lives. And these are people who cannot afford to have an enormous part of their lives shut down.
And one of the
which is
biggest
really sad.
one of the biggest hypocrisies about all this lockdown stuff that I think doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that all these Democrats and all these liberals that hate corporatism, they hate big companies, they're voting for these lockdowns that are taking so much capital away from small businesses. And they're making, and the people gaining the capital are all the huge companies and the big businesses.
Amazon's doing great right now.
Yes.
Mom and pop shops are taking it on the chin. We went to we went into a department store over the weekend. We were looking for a specific Christmas present for my daughter. And man, it was just next to empty. And we hadn't been in 30 seconds before my wife said, gosh, this is just so sad. These guys, I don't know how they're keeping their doors open.
Yeah.
And a lot of places we've been to, it's the same thing. I can't figure out how they're paying the people who are there.
Right.
Because it doesn't look like they're selling. It doesn't look like they're making enough gross sales to pay for the people they've got on the floor, let alone net. When you're, what's the average profit of business? It's like 4 to 7%, something like that. I have no idea how they are staying afloat. And this is something that I was talking with a couple of assignment editors earlier today, and we were talking about how the mentality has become stay alive at all costs, even if it destroys your life. And there have been a lot worse threats than the coronavirus to mankind. Way worse threats. Worse threats. But the powers that be have decided not only do we need to try to control it and contain it, the goal is to eradicate all cases of it. And that's just, it's wholly unrealistic.
It's
And there are all of these
Yeah.
contradictions. Like she was pointing out, there are all of these contradictions out there. Apparently movies can be okay, and you're okay if you're on the lot and you're hanging around concessions there.
Yeah.
If you go to a restaurant, it's not okay. If I go to a restaurant, I have to eat outdoors, and I have to wear a mask. Apparently coronavirus is extremely contagious while you walk, but once you sit, coronavirus loses all of its power,
Yes.
and you can take your mask off. There's all of these contradictions, and Americans are reasonable people, and they are beginning to see. They're not beginning to see. They've been seeing this, and they're fed up with it.
Yeah, and I've read through the list of exemptions, and it's just so arbitrary and so ridiculous. You can, Newsom and Garcetti, they've released these lists, and they're
Yeah.
ridiculous. I just, real quick before we move on, I wanted to run one more thing by you guys. So there's this narrative coming out of this story that people in California are starting to take the red pill, and people are starting to wake up.
Yeah,
And
I think Drudge had a headline.
maybe
on that.
several years in a few years down the road, you could start to see some things turn around. We did win a House seat in California, I believe, surprisingly, this past election. So, do you guys
see?
Yeah. One.
even that? though.
It's okay.
that's-
It's better than
every
nothing.
journey starts with one.
Yes.
Starts with the
Right?
first step.
Yeah.
But do you guys think that there's a red pill moment coming for Californians? Maybe not. They might not be all voting Republican all of a
Yeah.
sudden, but they might start holding their representative officials a little more accountable.
I hope so. As I was watching the video, I was thinking the sad thing for so many of these people who are getting hit right now is they were probably apolitical. They
Right.
probably didn't think just a whole lot about politics and how it impacts their lives and those things.
Exactly.
And so you're in a great place like California where the climate's nice and everybody's chill and laid back and comfortable pooping on the street and stuff.
Yes.
San Francisco.
There's but that last part aside, it's a really cool environment. I'm sure they just thought, gosh, this is a great place to live. Whereas
Yeah.
I would never move to a place like that because I know what could happen. And now it turns out what could happen is happening.
Yeah.
They've gotten an excuse to exercise extreme amounts of power, and they're exercising it. I don't know how many people this will red pill as far as conservatism goes or libertarianism.
Right.
I do hope it will wake up a whole lot of people to the import of politics in general. I talk about my wife on here from time to time. She's pretty apolitical, and she's realizing all of a sudden, gosh, it is scary what these people can do.
Yeah.
What do you think about red pilling?
Honestly, I'm from California and I'm from the Bay Area.
Ah!
So that's just
You know the
about
poop.
as bad as yes, I have seen it. Unfortunately, don't go to SF anymore. But honestly, I was talking with some of my more liberal friends the other day, and family members as well, and I am starting to see a little bit of a shift. With this whole lockdown and how the Democrats are handling the response to this. And I have seen a lot of liberal people, more liberal-minded people, slowly starting to wake up and realizing that something's not right here with our liberal leaders.
Right.
So I would say definitely. I think it might just come in slow waves.
There are these things that happen throughout history and societies too, where there are significant resets in the way people
Yes.
think. If you're lucky, it's going to come in the form of the Great Awakening or something like that, where you've got a spiritual revival and reawakening. The other way it can come is through wars.
Yep.
If you're less lucky, that's the way it's going to happen. But these societies do get shaken up and reset from time to time. And I hope what happens here is that we actually do have a revival or a renaissance or something like that, and that it's not some sort of violent conflict that does it. But I do think people are realizing this is not what I signed up for when I
this is
moved to
not
California,
okay.
or when I had the chance to move to Phoenix and I didn't do it. This is not what I signed up for.
And it's
Yeah.
not just California Democrats that are making a lot of these really crazy decisions. It's also presumptive President-elect Joe Biden in choosing some of his...
The extremism, all over the place.
Yeah.
Yes. So I have a very interesting article that I would love to talk about.
From the Western Journal.
From WJ.
Course.
Yes, of course. It was written by Jack Davis. So Joe Biden has been slammed for picking pro-abortion extremist Javier Becerra to lead the Health and Human Services Department.
Great job pronouncing that.
Thank you. I really tried.
We all
up
practiced.
the first couple times.
Yep.
Yes. So according to the Susan B. Anthony list, Becerra has a terrible record when it comes to how he dealt with pro-life journalists.
Yes.
He continued to persecute them with the help of none other than Kamala Harris. And he went after citizen journalists who exposed Planned Parenthood's role in baby parts trafficking.
That would be Project Veritas,
yes,
et cetera.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, so he was one of the main guys that went after those journalists. He also tried to force pro-life pregnancy centers to refer for abortion. So he wanted to force that on health centers, which I think is terrible. And then he also voted for partial birth abortion. So what I also think is really ironic, and I'd love to insert that tweet right now, is the Biden-Harris presidential transition team tweeted that their health team, including Becerra, will lead with science, expertise, and integrity. So that's interesting. I don't understand. I mean, maybe you guys will have an opinion on this. I don't understand how a man, Becerra, can lead with science when, science tells us when life begins, right? The basic biological definition of life. He doesn't even support that. By supporting partial birth abortion. Even
if you believe, for no reason at all, because there's no evidence supporting it, that a child is not technically a life until it exits the mother's womb, a partial birth abortion would still be the murder of a baby.
Yes,
so
exactly.
This guy's an extremist, and the fact that Biden is appointing him just proves that Biden is not about unifying. Mm-hmm. He's going to pick these radical people to be members of his cabinet, and they're going to continue to try to push their extremely far left agenda on the rest of us. Mm-hmm. And science only matters when it furthers their agenda, and when it doesn't, science kind of gets pushed to the side.
Yeah, no, exactly. And my other question to you guys would be, do you think Americans, liberals and Republicans, do you think they're going to trust this guy to look after us as a nation in a health aspect? Do you think that people are going to trust a guy like this?
Well, I hope they wouldn't trust. I hope they wouldn't trust any government official to look after their interests. Government officials government officials. I mean, they're no different than the rest of us. Their primary motivation is their own self-preservation and making sure they can feather their nests in these things. So they will take the path of least resistance when it comes to that. And if they think that is the path to least resistance coincides with screwing over Americans as far as healthcare goes, they will do it in a heartbeat. For sure. I was just looking out. I was trying to find the latest polling on support for partial birth abortion, and I can't, in this small 2 minutes, I was not able to find a whole lot of polling on it. I do know that support is terrible for it. It is remarkably low for partial birth abortion. And so then you have to get into this, if that's the case, and we know that politicians and political appointees are interested in kind of swaying with the wind and where the whims of the people go, what then explains someone's commitment to something that is so incredibly unpopular, that is as incredibly unpopular as abortion? And I think the way you explain that is a religious sort of commitment to abortion. This idea that killing babies is good, ultimately. And I mean, we used to see, did we see it with the Wendy Davis stuff in Texas? I can't remember. There was I I can't remember, but gosh, we used to see protests where people would shout their abortions, where they would talk about how proud they were and how they were looking forward to their first abortion and this and that and the other. And those are not reasonable positions to take, especially on something that the left frequently defines as something normatively defines as something they hope will be safe, legal, and rare. Yeah. And so if that's the case, well, if something is safe and legal, why would you especially want it to be rare? It's not clear to me why that's the case. But so why do you have somebody like this guy interested in partial birth abortion? I think it's just a commitment to a horrible demonic practice.
It's horrific,
in my opinion.
And the farther left you go with abortion, you're just seen as a person that's more and more for women's rights. Like that's how they spin it.
Well, why does he have an opinion on this? By the way, he is a man.
Right.
He should not have any say whatsoever over women's bodies.
Right?
But I don't see him being attacked by that or by anyone other than me.
Oh, of course not. Yeah. I think that's they're very picky with who they decide to pick on, you know.
Right. Yeah.
I just think it's really sad, and I believe that he had stated that he was also a Catholic, just like Joe Biden has said many times. I'm a Catholic. He met with the Pope recently, and to me, I'm thinking, okay, really? You say you're a Catholic, but how can you support something so horrific?
His faith, whatever, and I can't judge another fellow's faith in general, but whatever faith he has there seems to be taking a backseat to his politics. And that's it's not an uncommon thing at all. I appreciate the Catholic Church's stance on these things. There are the cardinals who have said this is unacceptable. Kudos to them. There are a remarkable number of people and bishops who don't seem to have much of a problem with it, though. And that's alarming. That's alarming. The left is just kind of advancing on all sorts of different fronts there. It's a great issue to pull out there, and it really does. It also raises the question of Biden's commitment to being halfway moderate and trying to unify.
Yeah.
There's no how do you say you're trying to unify people when one of your appointees fervently and feverishly supports something that is wildly unpopular with the American people? Explain that to me, someone, anyone.
Yeah. It's not really representing the people,
right? There's no representation
it's so
of the public.
Yeah. So I think that that's inappropriate to appoint someone who has such a radical view that's not echoed by the people. And their support. So it's really sad. And also, I think it's interesting, Biden has really flip-flopped on that topic as well, on abortion, and then, he's
and
all
most
over
things.
the place.
Yeah.
With a lot of things.
Well, and that was part of the problem with him from the beginning. He was clearly, from the beginning, I mean in the 2020 cycle, he was clearly sort of an empty vessel into which the left could kind of pour whatever amalgamation, whatever mixture of ideas they thought were in vogue at the time and would get them the most votes. I do think it's fun watching what's happening with the far left being frustrated already and wanting maybe a bigger seat or more seats at the table. I think it's going to be fun to watch that play out. I think Biden will probably try to stymie those people as much as he can, but I don't have any confidence that he'll be able to. If he makes it through the first term, we'll see what happens afterward. I don't know that he'll make it through the first term. If he doesn't and Kamala takes over, then at that point, it's Katie bar the door, and there's going to be nothing but extreme leftist policy coming out there. So, it is an alarming thing. I think Joe Biden is one of the only things standing between us in the extreme left, and that's a really scary, scary thought. Yeah. So that's it. We're out of time, folks. Thank you for joining us on WJ Live. Remember, we are powered by the Western Journal. As Sarah's story showed, we are powered by the Western Journal. We do independent, thoughtful journalism that you're not going to find in the mainstream. You're not going to find with the establishment media. You're not going to find with the legacy media. And we need your help. We appreciate you tuning in and watching. We're very thankful for that. We can use your support If you happen to like my cool mug I've been drinking tea out of this whole time, my Western Journal mug, and on the other side it says "Equipping Readers with the Truth." If you happen to like that, you can support us online, and you can actually get your own nifty version of that mug. I had a friend who is very well respected, involved in the judiciary. I had him messaged me the other day saying he really loved the show and he was wanting to know where he could get one of those nifty mugs.
Yeah,
so yes, go to westernjournal.com/join, westernjournal.com/join, and you can subscribe there, get your mug, and again, we need your help, we need your support, we appreciate your support. Also, we know that censorship is a huge thing, big tech censorship is a huge thing. You can do this for us. If you're watching on YouTube, go to youtube.com/WJ Live. Hopefully, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's where you are. Click the subscribe button.
Ding.
And after you click the subscribe button, click the little bell. And then you did ruin it. That's all right, though.
Okay, you
it's
tried.
Christmas. It's a season of forgiving. It'll be okay. Click the little bell, and then you will get notified every time the show is on, every time we go live. So we'd love for you to do that as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. We're of course on Parler. We're on, do you call it MeWe now or Mayway? MeWe, I think, whatever. We're on that one too. Hopefully the one that displaces Facebook, cause screw them over at Facebook. Anyway, that is all we've got time for today. Thank you again for joining us. Remember, we are here every day, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Have I got that 5 p.m.? Yep, 2 p.m. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. I've got George's thing. 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samantha, and I'm the community manager for the Western Journal. We've really enjoyed recording WJ Live these last few weeks, and we have some exciting news.
We are now on Apple Podcasts, but we need to ask you a favor.
In order to equip even more listeners with the truth and fight against big tech,
we need to get more subscribers and reviews.
So please, go find WJ Live on Apple Podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Oh, and tell them you want to see more of me on the podcast.
Thank you for helping us out. And don't forget that you can catch a new episode of WJ Live every Tuesday and Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific on YouTube and now Apple Podcasts.